Oh, hello again. Back so soon? Yes, I am. Still in the same outfit. We're covering chapter 3. Stay with me. Get a snack if you need it. Two more to go. Two more chapters to go for week 1. But right now we're covering chapter 3, the overview of the helping process. Okay, here we go. Couple key points that I want you to remember. Numero uno, the big idea is that effective helping has a process, okay? So, we're not just going in chit chatting when we're in a session. Social work intervention is intentional, okay? We're not just having a conversation. The general flow of the helping process is important for you to know. You're going to need to know this moving through the program, and you're going to see it on licensure. So make sure you know it. We always start with engagement. It always comes before intervention, all right? So engagement. We engage the client, we explore, and we assess, we plan, then we intervene, we evaluate the effectiveness of the intervention, and then we terminate. Okay, so of course, the overall goal when we're working with someone is always going to be termination, right? So again, engage, explore slash assess, plan. So what are we going to do to intervene? Now we're going to intervene. We're going to introduce the intervention. We're going to evaluate the effectiveness of that intervention after a period of agreed upon time. And then we're going to terminate. Okay. So we're trying to get the client to build up those skills to be successful on their own and to be able to use that intervention in their own life away from us. All right. And of course, real practice, by the way, is not perfectly linear. So, for example, there might be a time where you get to the evaluation. Like, oftentimes when I get to the intervention process, I'll say, okay, listen, I'm going to see you again in 2 weeks. Between now and the next 2 weeks, here is some homework for you. I want you to practice this intervention that we've agreed upon together in this hour we've spent together. I want you to practice your deep breathing. I want you to make this phone call. I want you to have this hard conversation. I want you to practice maybe rethinking some of the irrational thoughts you've been having and how can we restructure that to decrease anxiety. And let me know how it goes. When they come back, I'm going to ask them, how did that work for you? And sometimes our clients are going to say, it didn't. It didn't work for me. It didn't go well, or I didn't have time to practice it, or I practiced it and I didn't feel anything. So we're going to have to back up a little bit and we're going to have to explore again. And then we're going to have to plan. And then so it's not linear, okay? We don't, unfortunately, it would be really nice in a picture perfect world, in a perfect case, we go through all of these and get to termination. But oftentimes it's just not how it happens because again, we're working with human beings, right? All right. Next, engagement comes before intervention. Okay, so important. I know that we want to just solve the problem immediately. That we're problem solvers, right? That's why you're sitting here in this class. You want to solve the problem. You want to fix it. We're fixers. But before a client can accept our suggestions, they need to experience us as trustworthy, as respectful, as competent, interested, and non judgmental. Okay. So remember how important that is. Before we can do anything with a client, we must establish rapport. Don't forget that. Okay. There are even going to be times, and I used to talk about this with my former students, that we're going to have to confront a client on a behavior. You cannot do any of that kind of hard work until you've built trust and respect with your client. So always engage first. Next, assessment. And this happens throughout the relationship, okay? It is not something that we complete during just one session and then pack it away. New information is always being brought up by our clients. Circumstances are going to change. And our understanding of a client is going to change based on the information they bring into every single session. So every time we meet with a client, we are performing an assessment. And sometimes it's just us making note of their mood or their nonverbal behavior. But we're always assessing throughout our time with a client. Next key point I want you to remember, collaboration is key. It is central, okay? We work with our clients. We do not work on our clients, right? So we are not coming up with goals, for example, simply because we know it's what the client should work on. We're coming up with goals that are evidence-based, but also goals that the client wants to work on. If there's no buy-in from the client, if there's no collaboration, they are not going to engage in the therapeutic process. And that is a disservice to the client. So we always want to find out what it is they want to work on, so that it can be collaborative. This is not about us, this is about the client. The professional relationship is purposeful, right? So being warm is important, but keep in mind we're not friends with our clients. Our relationship exists to help advance a client's goals. That's what we're there for. So remember to maintain your professional and ethical boundaries, but also don't be afraid to establish an appropriate relationship with the client. All right. So it's really tempting, I think, when a client says something like, just tell me what you think I should do. Like, how tempting is it to be like, well, let me just tell you. But keep in mind that we are not advice giving. We're helping to explore all the options and then helping the client make the best informed decision for them. That's what this is all about. They have that right to self-determination in making their own decisions. And even though it's a decision you may not make, it might be the right one for the client. And you'll see how it went when they come back to another session and you evaluate the effectiveness of that intervention. And maybe they will have learned, like, hey, maybe that was not the right decision. I need to try something else. But in the meantime, it's okay for them to mess up as long as it is their decision and they have collaborated in the process. Okay. It's hard to let a client walk out of your office knowing, I don't know about that. But unless there's a safety issue or a risk for the client to harm themselves, sometimes our clients have to make mistakes. One thing to remember, most importantly, we don't rush to intervene. We don't rush to intervention before we understand the person and the problem. Peace.